Okay, we're going to take another look at Acoustica today and whether we can do any advanced things with subwoofer control. And it's really about getting a sound from the subwoofer that you really like and that can tune for your room, or just, again, your ears like to hear bass in a certain way. So like the advanced sections now in 6.3, obviously we've been over the crossovers. You can choose crossovers. I again prefer to lock in, which is to 80 Hertz. So this is a pretty simple layout that you can choose, like advanced settings like this, but thankfully we do have the choice to, control these. If it was left up to it to choose crossovers and we had zero control whatsoever, then I don't know if I'd actually be able to use this, because again, there's a certain level of sound and control that I actually want from this. So again, I personally think 80 Hertz is the best crossover to use, and the reason is because I had to explain to some people in the comments last time that I can't hear the sub at 80 Hertz. So for me, that is the best crossover to use, because I don't want to localize any sounds coming out of the subs at all. Now, if you had an array of subs, maybe 6 subwoofers at the front, then maybe you could use any crossover you like, because pinpointing where the bass is coming from at that point, probably you couldn't do it. But when the bass is at 120 Hertz and it's coming from the subwoofer, I can tell that it's coming from the subs. So, that's really why I lock in at 80 Hertz. I personally just think it sounds better. But we have all this choice now. So, now one thing that I haven't messed around with, because I didn't really know what this does, is force high pass and low pass filters. I didn't know what this was, so I had to do some research. I had an idea already how it worked, but I had no idea what these slopes were. So you have L4, which is the standard 24 dB roll-off. You have Butterworth and Bezel, I think. So I had to kind of find out how these work. Luckily in MINI-DSP, there's let's do 2x4. In crossover section here, you have filter types for the high and low pass filters here. So Bezel, Butterworth, and Linkwitz-Riley, right? So what do we have here? So this would be Linkwitz, Butterworth, and Bezel, which there's only one here. So you get to choose all of these essentially. Now I made like a cheat sheet for the filters, exactly what they are, like all of the filters and what they do, how deep they go into the curves and things like that. Not all of these are listed in Acoustica, but quite a few of them are. Like the Linkwitz here, they're going from R2 to R8, and it's 12, 24, 36, 48 dB per octave. Most of them only go to 48. That is the absolute limit. So, because what I was doing was essentially trying to find the sharpest curve drop off. So if you go to Butterworth, say 24, you can tell, let's disable that one. You can tell that the curve is not as strict as we had before. So if you go now to 48, let's actually do it here, because then you can see it. Yeah, now you can actually see it. So you don't need to see this. I know the camera's there, but you just need to see this. So we was on, say, a Butterworth 24 right there, and relatively sharp still, but you can go even sharper, which is a 48, which is the maximum, which is right there. If you see this is important, going from the 24 to the 48, is that the 24 is starting to curve off already to make sure it gets to this point where the 48 is allowed to go a lot longer and then drop. That's why as well I like to use a 48, because there's a point in the sub where I just don't want, this would be inverted, this would be down here obviously, not, I wouldn't be using a low pass filter, I'd be using a high pass instead, but I'm just showing you the actual angles here. And there are benefits to doing this. One is really saving your sub from doing too much. The problem is when you EQ something, you are bringing certain levels down, and sometimes the balance of what you actually then have is slightly different. I think Acoustica is very good from a default point of view at detecting the roll-off of your subs. I actually think it's excellent. But for me, I personally still want to tighten up a few things. So one is tightening up things in the low end, and one is tightening things up in the high end. The high end is, I always use tenor as a reference to what is going on with the subs, and I felt as though the what I could hear, and I've been listening to some other stuff as well, is I could detect where some of the bass was coming from at just some of the high end, and I think it's the default settings that Acoustica actually has. So let's turn that off. So basically what I'm after is the sharpest cutoff possible, which this is Butterworth 48, Linkwitz Riley 48. Let's see if it's any different. So as you can tell, it curves more, which for me is bad. It's letting go of too much already. Like if this was set to 100 Hertz and it needs to get to 100 Hertz at a certain point, it's already having to start come down. Even at, it's losing a dB even at 78 Hertz. So it's not sharp enough. So if you go back to Butterworth, you gain more bass, and then there's the drop off. That's exactly what it's as close in here to a brick wall filter you can actually get. So I do not want any roll off whatsoever. I want the sound to stop. I want the subs to completely stop when I use this filter. So I want to see if I can do this in Acoustica, and if we can't, is there any solutions to doing it? Now I did have a little play around with this, and from what I'm seeing, this high pass filter is not acting in the same way as every other high pass filter that I've used. And we'll see in a minute kind of like what it does. So now on here you can choose manually to where to roll off the actual system. Now what I'm probably going to do is end up rolling this off at 250 Hertz and see if there's a difference between choosing 250 Hertz and then letting me manually control the roll off in the receiver and set that back to 120 Hertz. That is what I used to do, and I think that's what a lot of people used to do. Acoustica is, I don't know if this is true for everybody, but for me it set it to 150 Hertz, and it was an R4, LR4, Linkwitz Riley R4, and this was set to 18 Hertz. No, sorry, 16. It was set to 16. So I went in there and changed this to Butterworth 8. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. Butterworth 8 is a 48. So, and you can check on here as well. So Butterworth BU is 48, 8th order. So BU8. That is the sharpest filter you can use. And then what I used to do in a MINI-DSP is like this, set this cutoff to 18 Hertz, which cuts it off really just a couple of hertz before the detective roll-off in, say, Acoustica. And for me, the goal of that is to remove this kind of baggy bass. That's what I would call it. Like, it's just on the edge of pushing the subs too hard. Now, one or a couple of ways around this is to put more subs in your room. The more subs you put in the room, the lower volume each of the subs is going to have to be, or need to be, to produce the same volume, which puts less stress on each of the subs. A couple of other things to think about with bass this deep is the room itself. You know, I don't really like, I mean, this might be based on the size of my room, 14, or is it 16? It's 14 or 16 by maybe 20, 18 to 19, 20, something like that. So it's a relatively small room, which I wanted it to be. I wanted a small room, but when you have this much bass in a small room, there is also that thing to think about as well, is I prefer cutting off at 18. 18 is where I can't hear my sub now being pushed too hard, at least with this filter. And sometimes you can hear the room, but generally most things have cut down. The bass is tighter as well because the filter is so sharp, and it allows you to almost go down to this point almost unfiltered all the way up to that's output 2. Is there any way of showing the other outputs? Right, so it's just 23 Hertz this filter starts, and that's by setting it at 18 and using the sharpest curve. Now, the argument from some people will be, well, I paid money for these subwoofers and I want the most bass that I can get. Me too. But number one, I don't want to hear my subs bellowing away. There's no way I'm having that. I'm just not having it. I don't like the sound of it. Now, you could say get non-ported subs, because I have ported subs. There could be that as well, but regardless, I still want the tightness of that bass, and I want the filter to cut it off before. So that's what I did in the MINI-DSP, and again, we're going to see if we can do this here. So, and it's so again the same with the low pass filter. I'm hearing bass that, in my opinion, should not be there. I don't care about any theories about, well, the 120 Hertz filter in a Denon and Marantz, or every filter starts cutting off 80 Hertz values in the subwoofer channel itself. Don't care. I don't care. All I care about is how it sounds. That is all I care about. I don't care about the theory of, well, if you use 150 Hertz, you still haven't filtered yet at 80 Hertz. I just don't care. I just care about how it sounds. And if I can hear the audio or bass coming from a subwoofer, even if it's in the 0.1 channel, I don't care. Like crossed over bass, I don't want to hear it. LFE bass, I do not want to hear it. So this is, again, why I just, like, if I heard that in a demo room, that I could actually pinpoint where the bass was coming from in the demo room, I'd say to them, you haven't got it set up right. So I don't want this 150 Hertz crossover, and I want to look at different ways of actually getting the sound that I want through crossed over bass. I want to see if crossed over bass is the way to go to actually measure a subwoofer, or use the LFE channel itself. And there are different problems with both, but one of them with the subwoofer is that if you are playing a Dolby, anything that is Dolby, it is rolling off at 3 dB per octave, maybe at around 120 Hertz. Like it's actually using a filter itself. So you're measuring something with a filter that's already applied, and then you're probably EQing some of that back in. This could be why I'm hearing the sub, even in the LFE channel. So, yeah, that's why I'm doing. This is why I was like, even here it says forced. I was kind of forced to do this. and wanted to see how all this works. So yeah, after I'd done all my research about what the filters are and how they work and what filters that I want, I started looking into this. So before we do that, let's get a few measurements in to see what the differences are between crossed over bass and LFE bass. So let's get going. From file, good. Yeah, let's get going. So this should be LFE, the actual LFE channel. I am using no smoothing here. Alright, so this is a LFE subwoofer. And now let's measure the front right, which I have unplugged at 250 Hertz. Actually, I might have a filter on here. I didn't hear that. So, one sec. This might be at 80. So I want this at 250. That's saved. I'm assuming this is at 150. Let's just put it in for now, just in case. This is crossover sub 250 Hertz. Okay. Right. So obviously right now is when you set this to 250 Hertz, it's allowing more information to flow through. That isn't actually what I want, but at least we can see the difference between the two. Another one then is, let's set this. That was 250 Hertz. That was 250 Hertz, and that was a 250 Hertz speaker. Okay. Typically this got set to 150. I thought I just loaded up my file that was 150. Just here. Maybe that didn't get changed. Typically this calibration is set to 150, so one sec. Let's measure that again at what it's supposed to be. Well, we can use this information anyway. That can be 250. So again, the difference between a LFE set to 250 and a crossover from a speaker set to 250 are actually different. Also, the roll-offs are different as well. So the subwoofer LFE is drifting down further, but I'm assuming this has a filter on it anyway. So they're definitely not the same. This is now 150 Hertz. Okay. Get off that. So LFE 120, 150 hertz. So again, the okay, that was 150, and each time we're essentially cutting more and more bass off, right? You don't want to hear this bass, and let's just see what the difference is then between a 120. Okay, and again an even stricter filter, so LFE 120 hertz. Now a couple of things to say about this as well is the 120 hertz filter here could have a double filter going on, meaning that OCA may have, in Acoustica, may have chose the 150 hertz roll off in the receiver, so it doesn't really have an effect on a potential filter that he may be applying also. And if that is the case, then it is essentially probably using a double filter here, his filter and then the filter of the receiver at 120 hertz. So I'm really just using this information to show the difference between these, and though some of them may not be accurate, from that point of view, if a double filter is being used, it does look as though they're actually almost even going all the way down here, these filters. When it is, even with OCA's Acoustica's calibration, at 120 hertz you cannot hear the sub in this high end at all. You just cannot hear it at all, and this is what I prefer. But I'm trying to figure out ways of getting the best sound. There might be more sound that I could get and still not be able to hear this. So now what I'm going to really do is try and find out what is the best way to actually measure the subwoofer now, is using the subwoofer itself or using crossed over bass. So we'll see. So I'm going to save this just in case. Save all. I've got another bunch saved here as well. So this is well, let's do this. Current sub measurements. Let's do that for now. And again, this is where it's choosing to roll off the bass, and that's exactly where it is at 16 hertz. Right? It's the sub itself is rolling off, and there's also a filter being applied there as well. Now I want it a little earlier. I do want it a little earlier to give more tightness in the bass. So yeah. Okay. So I've got some measurements that I made up already. I've literally just measured them, and let's open them up real quick just to show you what is happening here. Okay. Couple of good things to point out, I think. So this SW1 LFE and SW2 LFE are measured through the subwoofer itself, and SW1 XO crossover and subwoofer 2 are obviously measured through the right speaker, and the right speaker is excuse me, is unplugged, and the receiver is set to 250 hertz, so that it's as open as it could be. I don't know many subs that could actually go to 250 hertz. Generally, I mean, maybe 200, but then they'll probably start to roll off. Yeah, I mean, you can actually see here, you get to about 200 hertz, 190 hertz, and it's rolling off. So let's have a quick look at this. So let's turn off the number 2s. Let's turn off the number 2s. So as you can see, the crossover version of this is allowed to go higher. it's allowed to go higher here, and it's allowed to go higher here. Now, the levels are about the same. I mean, it is slightly higher because of the crossover is not kicked in. This is just the raw sub, the blue. The blue is the raw sub. The LFE is obviously getting some type of filter applied to it in a different way, or it is also having the Dolby roll-off being applied to it as well. And you're seeing this here, like this is actually significant volume here that you will potentially have to EQ back in to a curve. This is the problem, and it's the same with the second. I assume, anyway. Let's have a look. Crossover version again is in orange, and again it's showing that there's more information here as well. This means that the EQ will simply be different between each version. So whether you choose to EQ, I'm hoping we can actually do this through the crossed over bass and not the subwoofer. At the start, when I first started using Acoustica, I was having issues, and I was going through the MINI-DSP, and I was saying to OCA why the level's wrong. And at first, we was kind of troubleshooting, the levels being wrong. Well, it's probably because you're going through the MINI-DSP. It's probably because you're applying this filter. It's probably because you're, doing all sorts of things. After we actually found out the levels were actually being calculated wrong. Now knowing this, though, I never went back to remeasure the LFE crossed over bass to see if it was better than actual LFE bass. Again, the LFE is getting filters applied to it, and we just want to see the differences between the two. Obviously here you can see that there are differences here between a Dolby LFE signal or a Dolby LFE what's it called? I don't know what it's called now. A sweep type. Sorry, I was brain fart there. So yeah, we can see here that there's a difference there, and typically with EQs, when you use arithmetic here, it just simply will work out the differences, and if there are differences there, then it will be EQ'd back in. So I personally, over the last year and a half, found that sweeping through a right channel, unplugged, set to 250 Hertz, got far, far better bass than sweeping through an LFE channel. Much better. Even if you swept through the LFE channel in REW. Though the REW is very close, I just found that it was much better doing it this way. You couldn't hear the sub. The bass was absolutely perfect, completely tight, and it's exactly how I wanted it to sound. So, yeah, this is this. I don't know what's going on with my throat today. Where do we need to go? Current measurements. So let's have a look at this. What we're going to do is we're going to replace the sub measurements with the ones that we have now. So the current measurements, these are through the LFE channel, SW1, SW2, we're going to remove them. Remove that. Come on. Okay, remove. All right. REW has been really weird lately. I can't even delete this. Let's start again. Okay. Let's see if we can get these deleted. Okay, just take it slow. Okay. Now what we do is we open the measurements for the new ones. Current sub, LFE, crossover measurements. Okay. So, we have to delete these, so let's hope we can delete them. Let's do the LFE first. We'll delete these. I'm going to save it just in case. All measurements with LFE. Just in case. Alright, so now to make sure the balance and the levels are exactly where I wanted it to be, even though it's not a big deal with this setup, because this is really just a test, I made sure the center channel was with the generator here at 75 dB, which is what I did on my first one. So the volume levels should match exactly the same. There are a couple of things I actually just forgot that I didn't point out. The timing between the LFE base and crossed over base is 2 milliseconds. That's the difference in the channel itself. You can't change that. So if you are trying to get the best crossed over base possible, you cannot, from what I'm seeing, you cannot sweep through the LFE channel because the timing is different by 2 milliseconds. I will show you that. Can I open a separate one up? Because, you know, it is good. It'd be good for people to see this. Okay. So, as you can see, LFE subwoofer 1 is 7 milliseconds. This is, by the way, this is in a completely reset receiver with the odd file that OCA provides for you to reset the receiver. Every single distance is set to the same, including the subs. So this is 7 milliseconds, 7 feet, 10 inches. And the subwoofer when it's being crossed over is 5 milliseconds. So it's 1.4 milliseconds. Wait. Yeah. It's about 1.4 milliseconds difference. So if Acoustica can accept crossed over bass, and there's just no problems with that at all, if you are a 2-channel guy and you want the best 2-channel crossover possible, we'll see if we can do this, but this is leaning towards that you cannot have perfectly crossed over bass with 2-channel if you do not sweep through a crossed over signal. This is from what I'm seeing. You will always be 1.4 milliseconds out. Now that's not a lot, right? It's not a lot, but it's still something. Now you could say, well, wouldn't this mess up the LFE timing? Yes, but the LFE is not tied to anything else. Sometimes you can get LFE bass coming out of the LFE and nowhere else. So it doesn't have to phase technically with anything else. And if this difference is always here anyway, then it's to be expected. So crossed over bass though is always going to be a problem. And it's always something you want to do to get the best you possibly can. So if the timing is different of crossed over bass to LFE bass, then in my opinion, you always want to use the crossed over bass as timing reference as well. Especially for 2-channel, you'd be 1.4 milliseconds out all the time. And again, you probably can't hear this, but if it helps in any way for Acoustica to find information about crossovers, then this is the way to do it. If you are really, really picky about this type of thing. Can you get great sound doing the LFE? Of course you can. I mean, I've been listening to Acoustica now since it was released, and it's got better and better and better, and this version 6.3 is just absolutely incredible. The sound is amazing. But I want to know if I can get more out of this. Alright, so that's that. And right, so yeah, LFE, 7 milliseconds. 7 milliseconds, because we're on the LFE. The other one would be 5.6. That's that. Acoustica. I know what I haven't done. I haven't turned this on because I didn't start it through the through this. All right, it's running. Just to make sure things are even, let's set everything up as I would set it up. 80 hertz. 80 hertz. Plus 6 dB boost. Now, the first thing we want to do here as well is just to see how this works. So I'm going to set this at 250 hertz, and I want to know if this is actually working. So I'm just going to set this to like 30 hertz with the strictest filter that you could possibly use. All I want to know is this working? Because I have tested this before and the custom roll-off did not work. Acoustica actually disables it. So I want to see if a different one works. Maybe the slope is too strict. But if it's too strict, then why is it even in this list? Like, if it cannot do 48 octave, but it can do 6, which would be 36. Yeah, 36. Or here, R6, Liquid's Riley 6. If it can do that, then these R8s and BU7s and BU8s and these shouldn't even be in here. I'm kind of trying to figure out like what's going on. But we are going to set this to 250 hertz. What this does mean is that it will not apply any filters whatsoever in this crossover region, number one, and there won't be a difference, there shouldn't be a difference between LFE and the other one, apart from the Dolby roll-off, which is 3 dB per octave at 120 hertz, I think. So, yeah, so that's that. And we should be ready to go. Let's see. So start optimization using the measurements loaded in REW. I had warnings there. Okay, I'll look at this after. See, it says they're reversing the Liquid's-Riley 250 hertz low-pass filter. I just want to know if that's reversing the roll-off that's happening in the actual LFE channel or not. Override subwoofer. I need to look at these again. Anything in orange, I get like kind of like what's going on. So yeah. All right, so I can see there it's set the just here it's set the LFE to 250 hertz. So that's worked. And again, the reason for that is because it allows it to be fully EQ'd, essentially up to 250 hertz or around the roll-off area, which is around 200 hertz. Then you allow the receiver to do the roll-off itself, which is what all of my manual calibrations do. They do that, and they have perfect bass. Absolutely perfect bass. And what I mean by that is you can't hear it. So, I do not want to hear bass in... I don't want to localize bass, I should say. I just don't think it sounds good. I think even on a weaker, like, satellite system, I don't... Again, it depends how many subs you have. If you only had one and you're rolling off at 150 hertz, even for the crossed over bass, like that's going to be terrible, because anytime there's like a punch or anything, I'm going to hear it in the corner or wherever your sub may be. So yeah, I am pretty picky about this. I don't know if some people are like, look, I can't hear it, or they don't care. I don't know. But for me, if there's anything I hear that I feel is off, I will do everything I can to stop it. So, and that is for the low end of bass and the high end of bass as well. If I can localize anything, that's it. No. Again, this is the importance for me of choosing an 80 Hz crossover and 120 Hz filter in the LFE channel itself. All right. So, let's see what's going on here real quick. So I want to so these just got put in here. Rename 250 Hertz. Well, let's do this first. 30 Hertz, I think was the, and then 250 Hertz. LFE test. Let's see what's going on here. Subwoofer. All right, look at this. Warning, Acoustica will not calculate subwoofer roll-off frequencies and force BU-8 high-pass filter at 30 Hz and Linkwitz-Riley for hardware fixed at 250. It will not calculate. Why? Why have this as an option if it will not calculate? Is this just a bug, or am I like not thinking that this filter is going to be the same filter as what I think it is in MINI-DSP? So, by the way, even this app, this is the Multi-EQX PC app, which I've been using since it was released. Create new. Sample. Let's pull these out. So if you scroll along here at the bottom, you've got the subwoofer channel here. The cutoff mode here currently is disabled, so there's no roll-offs going on whatsoever. But if you press override, you can see now there is a filter being applied at 80 Hz with a second order. That would be a 12 dB per octave roll-off. So what can we do? That's a 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so Odyssey software goes up to 6. So it's not as sharp as I would like, but you could set this to 18 Hz, right? And you could put that filter on. Because it's not as sharp, it's going to slightly pull earlier bass out of the system, but that's the limitations that this has. But this is within Odyssey. Odyssey allows you to do this, so there's no restrictions in this apart from, well, can it do an 8th order? Can OCA put an 8th order in to allow this roll-off to happen, or can you only do 6? I don't know. So it's basically not doing it. Alright, so we're assuming now if it's not doing it, it's going to put the same roll-off in as before, which was 16 Hz at a Linkwitz-Riley 4, which is 24 dB per octave. Okay, this looks good. like the volume is correct, 89 dB. Alright, so this looks to all be correct. So user override, low pass is forced to 250 Hertz. Okay. Bass roll off frequency 16 Hertz with a 24 dB per octave slope. This is not being applied unless there's some confusion in these logs that yes, it is being applied, and now we are overriding what was set up top. I don't know. So okay, so let's transfer and see what we get. So transfer. So we are number 1, 30 Hertz, 250 Hertz LFE test. So 1, and we're on preset 1. I'm using preset 1 because I was like, well, it doesn't actually matter which preset I use, because I can just, after this, I load up my old file, and that's it. So as long as you've always got your backups, which get put into the folder, you'll be fine at loading the old files in. So today, if we figure out that I can use sweeps from the speaker, remove the cables from the back and sweep at crossover of 250 Hertz, if that works, then I'm going to have to remeasure my entire system again. Yeah, I'll just measure everything again. What I want to do though is make sure I can get my noise floor in the house, everything, as low as possible. So I might try some night sweeps. See how low we can get the noise floor. Okay, so let's see. Now, a few people do keep on saying that this screen isn't always correct, and I agree, it's not always correct. But I am using it just for the video so people can see it, so I don't have to keep going on the receiver itself. Alright, so the low pass filter is set to 250 Hertz. Good, that's what we wanted. Crossover bass. Let's do 250 on the fronts. Let's pull everything out apart from maybe the target. So, ooh, I'm using a music curve. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter right now. Nah, it doesn't matter, because all I want to see is when this comes down and how this rolls off compared to a target curve, and the differences between the two anyway. The target really doesn't matter. So let's have a look at this. Okay. This will be interesting, how this measures. Okay. Yeah. That looks basically about right compared to the target. Not quite sure what's going on here though. It's a little odd. As you can see, we're not... Oh. So I set this to 30 Hertz. And is it doing... Is it like... Is it doing something there because of that? This is interesting. Let's sweep the front now. outputs from the speaker, and the speakers are at 250. Yeah, the speaker's at 250. So there are differences here with the LFE sweep and the speaker sweep itself. The end of this is probably some type of filtering going on with the LFE channel itself. So the blue is, I should write these down. LFE 250 Hertz. That made it copy. Crossover 250 Hertz. Okay. Copy I don't want. LFE 250 Hertz, 250 crossover. Okay. So again, it's just really showing that there are differences in these filters themselves, even when they're both set to 250 Hertz. So let's save that. Full cal subwoofer LFE. Okay. Let's do another calibration. Is this? Let's close that. Let's go back to this. Yes. Okay. I wonder if it's best for me to full cal sub. Can I remove everything? Because loading this back up is probably going to be a problem. So wait. Let's delete that. Lock. Lock. Remove all. Okay. Save all. Full cal sub. Yep. Alright. I think that'd be the best thing to do. Now we can unlock these. Alright, is this on? API is running. Let's load measurements for Acoustica. Remove. Remove. Sub LFE measurements. Okay, so we want the crossed over ones, which are 5 milliseconds. That one's actually slightly different. There are differences between the left and the right by about 600 milliseconds, where they don't exist in the LFE channel. I will have to look into this. Could just be random thing. Alright, so these are the crossed over subs now. Timing is different, as we can see, 5 milliseconds and 5.6 milliseconds, and that's a 5. So now we'll see if we can actually do this. Because at the start, I didn't think I could do crossed over bass from the start, because we was all kind of having issues. We all wanted to like iron things out essentially and make sure we were doing things correctly. And we was really, OCA basically told me just for now use LFE sweeps. So let's get all these to 80 Hertz. Again, this is just in case. These shouldn't affect the results at all because it is. Well, this doesn't work. So what if I kept the this? And yeah, we'll keep that default at 25. Let's see if that works. Because if this works, then it would show that it is the filters themselves. Certain filters are too strict, and they actually shouldn't even be on this list if they can't be used. But if now we have an issue with just a R4, which is 24 dB per octave roll-off, then this system does not work. The forcing the high-pass filter and low-pass filters doesn't work. The low-pass one does, because this sets it to 250 Hertz and calibrates the entire way up. But the high-pass one doesn't work. So I didn't check this, but if it wasn't checked last time, then I'm not going to check it this time. But I do use all-pass filters. From my experience, all-pass filters sound as though you've got room treatment in your room. Everything sounds totally tight. No other real way to explain it. It sounds as though you're in a room-treated room when these are turned on. Some have said they don't like that though because the sound is almost too tight, whereas people like that openness of sound. So I think the all-pass filters changes the timing of well, everything really in phase. So things hit you at the same time, and it's almost attempting to try and remove the differences in the room, the way things reflect at you, from my understanding of all-pass filters. Okay, so that's it. That's everything as we want it, and this we'll see. So just double checking. We're in crossed over subwoofer 1, crossed over subwoofer 2. Okay, let's see if it can do it. If it can, then yeah, I will probably be using this method instead anyway. Let's go. I saw a message. I think it's a message saying that we can't use this filter again. I want to know, has anybody used this custom setting before? Like, what have you actually used it for? Because by the sounds of it, you can't even use it. Wait, user override, low pass. The distances are different. They were normally 18 and now they're 20. Yeah, so the distances are definitely different. But if the timing is different in the crossed over bass, surely that would make crossed over bass for 2-channel music, and just generally anything that's crossover, sound better. Because I don't generally look to see if I'm not sure if mixers intend that a lot of LFE bass is equal to what is coming out of the mains. They're, I would assume, generally separate. Maybe unless you're Christopher Nolan. I don't know if Christopher Nolan just goes total full range on his speakers, all of his speakers, and then literally just dumps everything into the subwoofer as well. I don't know if he does that, but considering Christopher Nolan mixes in DTS, and a lot of theatres DTS, they don't have a 0.1 channel, they just use massive full range speakers. So I wonder, like, for the home mixes, like, how is he mixing the LFE channel? Is he literally just using anything below 120 hertz goes into the LFE channel? Or is he purposefully mixing for LFE? Don't know. I wonder if anybody does. Let me know. Because his bass is relentless. So... And Tenet is the movie I use all the time to test that. I know when I've got a subwoofer calibration correct by watching that movie. So with this system though, you could press the button 10 times and 10 times the calibration will be exactly the same. Whereas in a manual calibration, there could be one thing you missed, and it's like, well, wait, why is this different now? So that is the benefit of using a system like this. It really is always going to be the same. Let's have a look at the log. Acoustica will not calculate subwoofer roll-off frequencies. Why? And this is an easy filter. It's not even a strict filter, this one. So basically, if anyone's used this and had any success with the filters themselves, because they're not working. At this point, now I don't know why they're there. Why have a check mark and have a setting for one and a setting for the other when the one doesn't work but the other one does? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do this first? Let's just remove everything here. Load up the old one now. Sub. No. Full. Yeah, that's the one. So this is right. I just don't want to get confused here with this naming scheme. Yeah, well, let's get to measuring. I'm just going to put subwoofer on it, so the calibration was done with subwoofer. I'm just going to, I think I'll remember that. So let's have a look. So let's put this in. Start. This isn't going to be right. This is probably 80 hertz. That didn't change. That means the settings didn't go through. Let me refresh just to make sure. I'm going to check the receiver just as well, just to be sure as well. Speakers, manual, crossovers is at 250 hertz. So this is a problem with Acoustica, is that sometimes the crossover setting doesn't get applied, so people are going to have to check all the time with this. So XO 250 Hertz speaker. Let's do that. So let's have a look at the differences. So they're actually about the same. That's interesting. What's going on here? 5.5 dB difference? Okay. Maybe this is not a big deal. Well, that's why we're here, right? The crossover thing, I'm not sure if this is being caused by the setting itself at 30 Hertz and it's rising because of that. I've never seen this, so that was swept there. Let's sweep here. We should be 250 on the LFE. Yep, 250 there as well. Alright, so what am I looking at here? So, LFE versus LFE. Let's see this real quick. Okay, so LFE versus LFE is actually equal. Okay, well, this would suggest then that OCA is putting a filter in to correct for the Dolby roll-off as well. Not quite sure what's going on here. I'm assuming it's this 30 Hertz thing that I'm using. So I don't know if that's causing an error there. This is unsmoothed. Now having these dips like this are completely fine because the room is doing that, and there's only a certain amount of timing and boosting work that you ever want to apply into this. I can't imagine it would be much that OCA is doing, but apart from this, the EQ it looks excellent, very, very clean. And I wonder if this is some of the setting that I'm actually doing, creating that. Because if this was smooth all the way to this point and just rolled off, which I'm pretty sure my last calibration was, it would be excellent. All right. So now you could say we got to the end of this and we realized, wow, there's no difference whatsoever. You can really say this is no difference whatsoever. Minor differences at best. So LFE, well, this is LFE versus LFE. One was done with a speaker sweeping from the speaker, and the other was done sweeping through an LFE channel itself. So from what we're seeing, LFE versus LFE, the timing, right, I see what's going on. So the timing of the LFE channel when it is in subwoofer versus speaker will always try and get to the same thing because that's what it's trying to do. But there are differences between the speaker and the crossover still. Look, it is 1.3 by the looks of it when it's fully calibrated. Timing difference 1.3. You can see here as well in the LFE channel the timing is 4.767 5 feet away. But when it is crossed over again at 250 hertz, the timing is different. There could be reasons for this that I'm now thinking about. Is the crossover of the subwoofer, is that only applying to the LFE channel or both? And another thing is with timing, does the timing change if you have a not 250 hertz roll off on it, you have an 80 hertz roll off on it? Let's figure this out. It's not a wasted day. There's always things to learn. Crossovers. So let's go to 80 hertz. That went through, good. Let's sweep this. Because anything can change the timing of this. If there's filter on something, it will likely change its timing. If let's see. Timing is different. So that's very, very interesting to know. $80 hertz speaker cal. The timing is different when you put filters on things, which we all should know anyway, but it actually brings it more in line. When you put an 80 hertz filter speaker on there, the timing gets even better. But the timing is even better when you sweep through the speaker as well. So this is as close, because this is a speaker calibration. This is a speaker sweep on a subwoofer. And this is as close as we can get. 1.892 to well, to impulse. It's not a big deal, but really, again, just pointing out the differences, that these timing differences do exist. And it is interesting if anyone else tries doing this, where they sweep through their speaker instead, or any speaker, and they set it to 250 hertz and calibrate the sub that way, that they get even better crossed over bass. And the reason the timing doesn't matter on the LFE channel is because it is an independent channel. It is, sure, you want it timed with everything else, which it would be, but sometimes it is playing its own independent bass, which does not rely on the other speakers to be in phase or time with it. So this would be really interesting. Again, you probably won't be able to hear this. But again, this is Acoustica is a calculating system of timing, phase, and everything like that. So, you know, what can be done this way? It looks as though the levels are correct, and everything like that. So now, one thing, I may as well do this, doing the video. So this error that we're seeing here, can we correct for this? If I set it to its default value, save all, subs, let's just call it that. So remove, these are locked, remove those. Let's load up my measurements. Come on. Ooh, that's gone. Okay. It's gone? Oh, good. Okay. Good. Okay. So let's remove the LFE ones. Okay, so we have the crossover bass ones. Let's see what's going on here. API is running. Good. Let's see if we can fix this problem of the 80 hertz. $80. Okay. I'm not going to enable this just in case because I want to see differences. So the default is okay. All right. So the default is this. 16 LR4. LR4 16. I'm going to match it. I assume it won't go through, but who cares? We'll just match it, and we'll set this to 250 hertz. I want to show the difference between this and the default setting as well. So this is set up correct. All right, let's go. I mean, at this point, it doesn't look as though it matters what you pick, but if that peak is being caused by that, then obviously I don't have a correct understanding of what is going on with this, or what OCA is trying to achieve with this setting. Like what is he trying to achieve? I don't know. Again, I wish it was like MINI-DSP, where you could just put your filter in and that's it. You are removing bass, but again, this is why it's a custom setting. Is it allows users to change and tune their bass exactly how they want it to be tuned for either their subs or a sound that they like. And currently we can't do that. So this is what keeps you up at night. Thinking about stuff like this. So I mean, this is the first time I've done this. Seeing the differences between the two. And well, so far it is really showing that there is only a timing differences in the channels. So once you set this to 250 Hertz, it does look as though they are equal in response. So I think for most people, this is not going to be any type of issue whatsoever. For the really picky people, you may be able to get better timing this way with 2-channel music. To be honest, even ATMOS music and things like that. So okay, so I just want to make sure I'm getting the right stuff here. Okay, so 257. Okay, this is it. Okay, this one. 16 Hertz, R4, 250 Hertz, speaker, Cal. Let's do that. So, transfer. 16 Hertz, R4, so that's number one. Number one. Crossovers are like supposed to be 80 Hertz. I wonder if it goes through this time to change it to 80 Hertz or keeps the fronts at 250. Whoa. Exit calibration mode due to error. My receiver is still in Odyssey, so it hasn't exited that. I want to see... I don't know what to do here. Maybe I should just turn this off. Failed to front left target curve flat. I'm going to turn this off. I think the screen might flash, but... what's going on here? I can't even turn it off, so give me one sec. Okay, so that transfer locked the receiver and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even turn the receiver off, so I actually had to pull the plug on the back and then put the plug back in. So I don't know if anyone's ever had that before. Let's try again. So number one, preset one. So let's see if this goes through or not. I've seen a lot of errors with either the Odyssey app, PC app, transferring files, and over time like this you'll see errors, a lot of different errors, even using Acoustica. And I'm not sure what's causing like the problems, but I think over time they will get ironed out. But okay, finished. Okay, good. So I don't know, sometimes turning things off can help. So alright, so this is sent. So this was the calculation. Remove. Yeah, just remove all. So let's open all subs. Yeah, let's just do this. We want to see if this hump's gone. That was the 80 Hertz speaker, Cal. Okay. What am I sweeping here? Front right. Does it matter? Crossovers. They're 80 Hertz now. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. We want to see if this error's gone. Let's peek. It's better. Okay. So, if anyone can tell me like what this is doing, it's doing something with volume, but it is not doing it here when you have it set this way. Again though, Acoustica will not calibrate the roll-off, but the differences are apparent here. The calibration is much better. This is interesting. This was set to 30 Hertz. So it's actually increasing volume? That's definitely weird. The levels are also different, so that's interesting as well. The levels are actually different, they're lower. These are much higher. Okay. This was swept with 250 Hertz. $250 Hertz subwoofer, so there are like big differences there as well. So, do I have a final subwoofer measurement? Acoustica sub. Final calibration? Does this have subs in it? Okay. Okay, that's the sub. Can I remove the smoothing? Ah, oh good. Somehow it cleared up all of this. Now, I'm assuming this was with a 150. So what did we just get? That would have been with a 150. The calibration is basically the same apart from this. So I want to sweep now with a 120. But let's sweep in the subwoofer channel. At 120. Okay, sub. This is... Oh, no. Am I doing this totally wrong? One sec. Let's do that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. This is 120 Hertz speaker sweep. This would have been 150. Can't rename. Okay. It's making copies. Alright, so this is swept at 150. Let's normalize the volume, or just get it about right. Actually, I could match them. One sec. Let's do this. SPL. What's the average level? 80. That'll be fine. 40. Actually, this is fine. That's interesting that that's set that way. Alright. Okay. So, what are the differences between a 150 calibration and a basically it was calibrated at 250 Hertz, then I choose the roll-off in the receiver. So, it's obviously rolling off faster, as you can see here. One is a 150 Hertz roll-off and the other one is a 120. And I think OCA is putting in a filter himself to roll this off himself. Now, in all fairness, his does actually look better as a roll-off. But the levels for me are too high. I want this to come down. And maybe having these little issues here, I mean, this is no smoothing as well, you've got to remember that. So these little minor things, even though they are not as good, they're doing exactly what I want them to do, and that is to roll the sub off at 80 Hertz. Now again, if this was a thing of getting to 80 Hertz and then rolling off, that's exactly what even this one is doing at the 120 Hertz filter. So it's just, this is louder for longer here. Now the difference is 2 dB, about 2 dB. Actually, 68. Actually, it could be 3 dB there. It's actually leaning towards 4. Not quite, but it's about 0.3 dB off of 4 dB. This becomes too audible for my taste. So this rolling off here, sure, the calibration starts to fall apart, and maybe this could be the measurements and how I have the room set up right now. It's not absolutely perfect as I would calibrate. There may be things in the way. The mic might be set up slightly different and things like that. But I prefer this 120 Hertz roll off, and the only way you can get there is by setting this to force at 250 Hertz, then you control the roll off. I don't think that allowing the system to do the 150 Hertz by its default and then you setting it to 120 is the way to go. I don't think it is. If OCA is not controlling any of the filters whatsoever, then you could just set it to 120 Hertz, but I have a feeling he told me you can't do it that way. So what I would do first, if if you did want to do it this way as well, is yeah, let's go over like everything we've kind of learned in this. Is if you want better and smoother, potentially as much as you could possibly get, crossed over bass, you are better off sweeping the channel itself, pulling the plug, and setting the crossover to 250 Hertz. It does look as though the sweep from the LFE and the sweep from the speaker have been matched by OCA. They do look as though they are actually the same, but the timing on the LFE channel and the speaker channel are slightly different. But the thing is, they're different as well because of the roll-offs being used on them. So it is a little bit difficult to like see what is truly going on here, because even when we put the 80 Hertz filter on, the timing is different as well by like 4 milliseconds, even when you put an 80 Hertz filter on, going from a 250 to a 80. But having crossed over bass timing information, I still think could be beneficial for 2-channel guys. If you're just you're pushing the 1%, you're just pushing everything as high as you could go for 2-channel music. Don't sweep through the LFE channel. Maybe there's better timing there. Or are the filters that they're using for 250 Hertz in the LFE channel and the 250 Hertz for the speaker, are they different slopes? If they are, then the timing's going to be different because of that. You know, there is lots of different things to think about here. But I wanted to make this video anyway, going over this. It does look as though this is having an impact, but to me, it's creating a slope the other way. It's actually controlling volume, and I don't really understand like how that's kind of working. So again, if you are doing this, I would run a calibration first, copy your existing settings, like mine was 16 with an R4, just copy this, right, for now. And then choose 250 Hertz, then use the roll-off on the receiver instead of using the default roll-off of 150. This, in my opinion, will give you tighter bass, and you won't be able to localize the bass this way. So I do think that is a better fix, because I don't like to hear my bass, or at least where it's coming from. If anyone can tell me in the comments like how this is actually truly working, this part of it, I wanted it to work like this. This is how I wanted it to work, and it's not doing that. It's actually doing the complete opposite. It's going up instead of down. So kind of strange, that is. So yeah. Now one thing that I wonder if OCA is aware of is what I was actually just doing is, if you are running, say, a filter on a channel at 250 Hertz, that the timing of that channel is now completely different. If you're running 80 Hertz crossovers, then the timing of those channels are completely different. So this could be why as well there are potential differences here, because the channel is set up for, say, a 250 Hertz crossover, so it's not actually worrying about this information. It's EQing it in a completely different way. And then when you put an 80 Hertz filter on, it's different as well. Let me see this real quick. I think we may have done this, but Okay. $250 Hz. It's interesting that the EQ is not as good, and I just wonder if it is just because of maybe room setup and things like that, or if when OCA does it by default, it's controlled in a different way. The filters are going to be different. Again, this isn't by much, and it's information almost you really don't want to hear anyway, so I'm not too bothered about it, but I am looking at it here. So, very interesting. So 250, I mean the difference between between 120 and 250 are quite significant. Even at 80 Hz it is boosted, and if everything after this point is just boosted. The impact is really at 110, like that's big. So the default there is 150, and this is all it is. This is the difference between the two calibrations, is setting one to 250 Hz manually by yourself. Then when the calibration is finished, you set the LFE channel to 120, and it just rolls this off by itself. That is literally the difference, and now you won't be able to hear or localize any information in that speaker. The roll-off looks to be exactly the same. There might be minor differences here and there, but this isn't really any difference. It is a shame that I can't just control this a little earlier and let this fall off earlier. That's what I want. I want that tightness. This area of bass is a little bit too heavy for my taste, and I just wanted to be able to control that. And it doesn't look as though this has been designed with what I want in mind. So again, I want to know who is using this and what specific way are you using this, because I don't want to boost information above my target curve like it was doing. I actually want to lower my bass at a certain point in frequency and bring it down. So yeah, but this is the difference. Now you could just run a calibration if you wanted to and set the receiver to 120 Hz, but again, I've been told that isn't the best thing to do. So I do think this is then the best thing to do now. So I will probably run another calibration like this, because again, if there's any chance or shadow of a doubt that I have in the current calibration, measurements and everything like that, I will do it. Another thing, I will be sweeping through the speakers themselves instead of the sub. It looks as though the volume differences have been fixed as well. It can calculate the volumes correctly, so it wasn't anything to do with the fact that you were sweeping through the left or the right channels or anything like that. The levels of the LFE sweep and the speaker sweeps are the same and things like that. It doesn't know, the system itself doesn't know that it's being swept through an LFE or a speaker itself. It doesn't know. It just has the signal itself from the subwoofer, and the timing is different. So yeah, really interesting stuff. So yeah, minor changes, but this I wanted to take care of. This being lower, I don't want to hear it. Now you don't hear it. And I will send this video to OCA and see, like, you know, is there anything we can do here to, like, obviously custom settings, so people who want bass to roll off in the completely natural way of their subs, that is completely fine. But have a custom option here to allow this sub to roll off earlier than the default value. Again, this is only by 2 Hertz. It's from 16 to 18, and it's a sharper roll off. So with the type of filters that OCA is making, like through FIR filters, I don't know. I'm not sure if. I mean, I think it could be done, but maybe it involves something different. When I was using, I mean, I haven't used this for a while now, MoTEQX, it is just text files. So if you want to bring something down, you are literally doing it with numbers, right? You are rolling this down with numbers. You could probably get ChatGPT to create you a 48 dB per octave roll-off in a text file. I'm sure you can, because I use a audio chat for ChatGPT specifically just for audio, and over time you kind of can teach it exactly how and what you want, and make it understand exactly what you need to do. I think I've actually heard people on the Facebook group talking about that, is they've created filters using ChatGPT and even created target curves with ChatGPT. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do. Now, if OCA does not resolve this issue, and it may not even be an issue to OCA, this may be functioning as OCA wants, but again, to me, this is like a little, I want to know who is using this and for what reason. So, like, and what they're putting in is exactly what they want when they measure it as well. I want to know, like, kind of who's doing that. If this is not resolved like that, then for me, if I have to, I will run through the MINI-DSP. Now, I'm sure OCA will be like, no, this sounds bad. But what I will do in the MINI-DSP here is, actually, yeah, it'd be like that, wouldn't it? Is run input 1 and input 2, so you have control still over timing. You would have no PEQs applied, everything would be flat and 0. So essentially you would just be running the thing through the MINI-DSP just to use the high-pass filter. That's it. You'd put one on here as well, enable. This one's different. Can you? I know you can copy. So it'd be 18. This. Output. Okay, they're different. It doesn't matter. So, but yeah, you'd be able to copy. I know you can copy the outputs. Mine are copied on my real thing. So you'd put 2 crossovers in pre-cal. So you'd put the filters in pre-calibration, and all that Acoustica would then know is that this crossover, this roll-off here, is what the sub is. It's just measuring what it is. Now, with something this strict, chances are the timing could be inverted. I've had this before. So I've done a full calibration on my subs before and put Butterworth 48 in and noticed that the timing like completely changes. Like it's like suggested by REW that you should invert the subs at that point. And I think it's because this filter is so strict that that's what it is actually doing. If that is the case, though, Acoustica should be able to fix that. So whether it is inverted or whether it is not needed to be inverted, Acoustica would be able to fix that with this filter in place right from the start. It doesn't know that this filter isn't already being applied from the sub itself. It will just see it there as, whoa, this sub is truly coming down now. There must be something in Acoustica that said if the sub gets to a certain point, and it starts dropping at, well, at 6 dB per octave, it knows where the crossover or the filter is for the sub. It knows where the end of the performance of the sub is. So you're just telling it that it's there. That's going to be something I'm going to try. I mean, I have to I use XLR cables, so there won't be any loss going through the MINI-DSP, then going to the subs or anything like that. So I'm not really too bothered by it. But I do have to get back there, change cables and move everything around and things like that. That may be what I might do. But over the next coming weeks with Acoustica here, let's see, are there any updates coming to this to have a look at what is going on here? And again, to me, this is just not working. To me, this is not working as intended. But maybe to somebody else, it's working as they want it to work. I'm not kind of sure. Because these are supposed to be custom roll-off profiles. And it quite simply wasn't rolling off. So it was actually boosting my bass at a particular, frequency. So I'm confused about that. But again, just to finish up here, you can now take care of this problem of hearing your bass if the crossover from Acoustica is set to 150 Hertz. Very small minor fixes here, but for me it's worth it. I just I can't hear. I don't like to hear this high-end bass where I'm like, ooh, I could tell that was coming from in the corners here. I don't want that. I want this tight, and I need it to roll off earlier, and that's what this has achieved. So yeah, these are really the kind of measurements and tests that I want to be doing, like with Acoustica, is, hey, truly finding out how does this stuff actually work. Oh, we can achieve a finer roll-off if you set it to 250 and then do it on the receiver. There's just loads of little different things that I am trying to do to get Acoustica to play nicely with my system, or just tune it as well as I can possibly can. The next thing again for me is controlling this slightly heavy bass roll off here. I want it to come down earlier, and that's about it. So that's enough from me today. For people using Acoustica, how are you getting on with it? Do you like the customizability of the app? Is there anything that you would want for this app to be able to do which currently can't? Obviously for me, it's actually having a, what is it? High or low? High pass filter. That if I could have a high pass filter that matches MINI-DSP, and there's really no problems with doing a filter like that. In an FIR filter, you may be able to get away with it not actually flipping phase, because from what I'm seeing with, say, calibrating for a while using multi-EQX here, when you use FIR filters, that really doesn't seem to affect timing in a way that typical EQ filters do. Like PEQ filters have a much different effect on the actual time itself than FIR filters do. So maybe there's something OCA could do here, but I don't know how much work it would be for him to do this. I mean, the filters are in place already. It's just I want them to work in a different way. So but yeah, how are you getting on with this? For people that have been using this, I'm really enjoying it. I think like I said, I'm on 6.3 now. I think the sound quality is excellent. There's really not much more. I don't think there's much more that OCA could do right now, unless there's other things that he has up his sleeve to get more sound out of this. Like I have noticed I think I've been using it since it was released, so maybe a month. Let's see. Yeah, a month. right? I've been using it. I was literally using it day one that it was actually released, because I saw the video and I was like, yep, I want to use this. Now that you can use REW measurements, I was in. So this has, in a month, this has gone from, this sounds really good. Then for me, it did go through a patch where didn't really like the sound. Luckily, that only lasted about 5 days. Then there was another update. I think we got to like 5 point, I don't know. But you know, it's evolved very quickly, and everyone is giving feedback on like the Facebook group, and very quickly this has turned into, this is excellent sound. And for me, I'm putting on the icing on top of the cake. That's all this really is yeah, I can hear the high end of my bass. I just want to cut that down. What are the best ways to do that? I think the 250 hertz method and maybe sweeping through the speaker is going to be the best way to do that. Can I control the low end now of my bass? Right now, no. If I'm forced to, I may run through a MINI-DSP. To be honest, it may be worth me, like say doing these videos, having the MINI-DSP in place, because running through a MINI-DSP with XLRs is not zero loss. There's absolutely zero loss there. But what it allows you to do is mute the subs. Being able to mute the subs while you're actually making a video, instead of like having to pause the video or something and get up, is so annoying. So, and to be honest, even while I'm calibrating as well, having the options to just mute these subs, like while I'm calibrating, I don't even have to move then. I'm not pulling cables out of the back and things like that. So just running through, just for that, you know, it may be worth it just to put it back in. So, hey, we'll see on that. If you haven't been introduced to Acoustica before, I had a video before explaining like how to use it step by step. And I'll leave links again in the description for OCA's original video on this. Check it out. I've got links to... So, Neuron was one he did before. I will leave a link to that. The odd file is something you want to download if you want to reset your receiver to essentially default levels. All of the trims are set to 0. All of the distances are like 3.2 or something like that. It just sets your receiver ready up so it can take measurements. Now, the first time you run the odd file, you'll probably get errors. If you run it again, then it goes through. Typically, it only takes me one time. And I'll leave a link to this. We're currently on 6.3. There actually hasn't been an update for a while now. I think 6.3 has been probably a week. It might even be a week now at 6.3, and it's because the sound is it's basically locked in. Like, this sound is locked in. A lot of the fixes from say 6.0 and 6.1 up to 6.3 have literally been bug fixes for some of the weaker models of Odyssey and things like that. And another thing is this bug about sending files to the receiver and the crossovers not being saved. That's still a bug, by the way. So, and another thing, today I had another bug where it got disconnected while it was sending, and then it froze my receiver. So, you know, you could run into some issues like that. Another thing, now he has his target curve library here. Now what I've done is I have been working on some target curves, and I made a post about it on the Facebook group and was been getting some good response. One person said they really love like the high treble and things like that. I created a standard music version, which do I have it here? Can I? it's there. Can I? Where is it? Target curves. It says standard. Did that go in? Let's see. What was that? There we go. So, okay. Yeah, I've worked on this music curve. If anyone wants to download it, I'll leave a link in the description. Been getting some good responses. I want to create just a standard version of what I thought was good sound. And is basically, it's based off of a Harman target curve, but I've tapered the bass in so it doesn't rise so early. I've used mid-range compensation to allow for a smoother transition from, say, mid-range to the tweeter, and just give it a smoother sound itself. And a lot of people complain about, say, the Harman target curve. It's just dry, and it is. It's really good for music, movies, but bad for music. So I put a 2.4 dB rise in at 11K. I tried 10 before, and I started listening to some music, and I'm like, nope, this is not good. So I ran Acoustica again with this target curve, set it to 11K, and I was like, yep, that's it. Tested a bunch of music, been testing it for about a week now, and it's, for me, it's pretty much locked in. Now I made some changes to like the high treble. A high treble is, these are all the same as standard, but high treble would put a shelf that kind of continues the, it does continue this a bit. It still rolls off, but it does continue this, and I did that at 11K as well. So yeah, I've been working on this. Now, warm bass is essentially just a Harman bass curve. The reason this one is useful is because music, well, it could be with all music, but the 80s music sometimes just is very light on bass. And it just doesn't sound good. So any music that doesn't have a warmer bass, and it could definitely use with some boosting there. Some of the 70s as well, they just add light bass, so it essentially puts the Harman curve back in, and you get a warmer sound. So yeah, then I did one with warm bass and high treble. So, and then I've just got the target curve for movies, which is a standard Harman target curve. So for me, they're the only target curves right now I'm using. I have tested other people's, and for me, they just don't work. I don't really like the sound of them. They're either rolling off too early, and they don't have the treble that I want for say music, and they're either too dry or they're too, I don't know. So that's why I put out my own target curves right now, and I think they sound really good. The standard music one I've been using now for a week or so, and honestly, I'm continually amazed by how good it sounds. So for Dolby Atmos music, it sounds so good. Like, it is excellent. So, all right, that's everything. I'll leave all of these links in the description. And yeah, let me know how you're going. How's EQ? EQ never stops. It doesn't stop. Even with a system that you can just press calibrate, there's still things to talk about. So yeah, never ends. Have a good day, and thanks for watching.